Hi, my name is Colleen Wilson, and I want to talk to you today about a way to design classroom lesson plans that will be unique for each student. We have very unique students in the classroom, and to meet those needs, we have to have a curriculum that is just as diverse. I want to introduce you to the Universal Design for Learning approach that minimizes barriers and maximizes learning for all students in the same classroom. Universal in the UDL means that curriculum is to be understood by every student. Each student brings with them their own background, their own strengths, their own needs, and their own interests. And so the curriculum should bring opportunities for growth for each student. And the learning in the UDL represents how our brain networks organize that learning. We have three basic networks. We have the engagement network, and that's the affective network, and that is the why of learning. It enables us to engage in the activity and motivate us. And then we have the representation or the recognition network, and that is the what of learning. That's the back of a part of our brain, and it looks for patterns that can be recognized and categorized the same way something smells, something sounds like, something that we've already heard before, what something looks like when we use our eyes to put that in perspective of what we already know. And then we have the action and expression network. That's our strategic networks. That is how of learning. It involves knowing how to plan an outline per se for a research project, or plan a trip to the grocery store, or know how to respond to a question asked in class, for example. And that is why neurologist Dr. Judy Willis said, multisensory lessons do not work because they are designed right brain, left brain. Rather, the multisensory input stimulates more than one specific sensory receptor region in the brain. When multiple brain regions are activated and form neural connections to the new content, the information is more likely to be successfully coded, patterned, and stored in multiple sites. For example, a lesson that uses both manipulatives and concrete representations of math concepts and formulas to represent the concept in abstract form will stimulate both hemispheres of the brain. The opportunity for comprehension and retention will increase because of that stimulation of multiple brain sites. So that's universal, and that's the learning, and that brings us to design. What design would give students knowledge? Skills they need to know in the 21st century? Well, a flexible design. So we need a design that will be usable for all students regardless of their learning style or strength. So here we have design. The design of UDL takes the same idea that an architect uses with the building facilities that are inclusive with, say, ramps, or we need accessible building for a wheelchair, and bathrooms that are equipped that are suited for people with handicaps, physical handicaps. Maybe the door needs to be pushed open. So, but all these designs that these buildings are ready for handicapped are still accessible to the people that have bodies that are functioning at 100%. So they took those same designs, except they put that universal design into curriculum. The UDL supports all types of learners. It includes their goals, the methods, the materials, the assessments that the children need in the classroom, and it makes them accessible to all students, regardless of their learning strengths or their learning style. So to begin with, we always start with the goal. We're never changing the goal or of the curriculum, but we're changing the path that students take. What barrier would interfere with their learning, and get rid of that barrier. So to get rid of that barrier, UDL has a way of creating a design in the curriculum that will not change the goal, but change the path of the student. So it uses multiple modes of representation, the knowledge in. It provides perhaps print or electronic knowledge books, and we can have use visual, auditory, or graphic forms of content. We can use closed caption on video. We can use group activities, and we can use text to audio for added help. And then we have multiple actions of an expression. It's tasks and skills demonstration, so the learner can always not only express themselves with just pen or pencil, they can have other modes of engagement and expressing expressions to help those who may have language barriers or have executive function disorders or some sort of other impairment. So it can use a wide variety of methods to allow the student to express themselves, what they know, in multiple ways. So in history, they may have dioramas or blogs or videos to type research essays, might be able to help do presentations, oral presentations, rather than just traditional ways of showing their knowledge. So they can use physical actions such as thumbs up or thumbs down with saying, instead of saying yes or no, or maybe if a student has problems writing and needs to use verbal modes of communication. And then there's multiple tools they can use. They can use a spell checker or text, talk to text. They can use calculators if they're, maybe in doing a graph in history, rather than not in the math class, but in the history class, the goal is not math, but it's history. The same thing in science. They can use a calculator in science because the goal is to learn the scientific method and the model that they're working with. And so they can use physical manipulatives, maybe blocks or 3D models, rather than just a one picture, in a book. So it provides different ways to interact with the content, different ways to show their knowledge and do their tasks. And then engagement, provide different ways of engagement. Some things you could do for engagement is to recruit interest is by give individual choice or autonomy. They want maybe choice boards for the curriculum that gets them to their goal. You can spark excitement by showing relevant value added and something that's authentic. Use learning that is real world and affects them. Even in the history class, you can have students watch a video on a topic as well as read the chapter, or make it age and ability appropriate, or there's lots of different ways that you can do. Use visual timers and cues. So those are just a few of the ways that you can do universal design for learning. It's representation, multiple means of representation, that's knowledge in, and then multiple means of action and expression, that's knowledge out or tasks, and then multiple means of engagement, how they interact with the learning. So how do I use these principles in my teaching? I will give you an example here shortly. So in my classroom, what this looks like is one thing I did was a multiple means of representation and a multiple means of engagement. So first I gave them, in the textbook, we had reading about the manifest destiny and the migration that took place. And then we put up on the screen the image of manifest destiny, the picture created by Guest, and talked about it a little bit. Then they were given this graphic organizer, and they were going to be filling out this graphic organizer. So once the graphic organizer was passed out, and once we talked about this image that was up on the screen, and we read about it a little bit in the book, they are divided the class into 7 groups, and each group was assigned one of the following groups. They had to act out, like the railroad workers or the Exeters or the Mormons, the 49ers, and then the farmers, and all the groups. And they were given 2 minutes to read their short description of the assigned role and what that group, why they were going west. And then each group was given about 5 minutes to plan a short scene. They acted out, and they were going to act out in front of the class and show who they were. And while they were acting it out, each group was acting it out. They had students, the other students were filling out their little speech bubbles on the graphic organizer with the information from the scene. And so at the end of it, they had to come up with a class definition of manifest destiny. And then we filled in all the bubbles and everything as they went along. And that's what, so they filled in the bubble, gave a definition and filled in the bubble of what manifest destiny means. And so that's what they did as a group. And that was kind of the opener for manifest destiny. And that was the multiple means of representation that I used and the multiple means of engagement that happened in the classroom. And it helped them to understand how this unit was going to play out and the importance of it. So I just wanted to add a little bit here about the multiple means of engagement and representation about role playing, because a lot of people don't like doing role playing, but role playing offers a unique opportunity for engagement. According to the UDL guidelines. So it helps bring especially history into the present because it enhances, like it says the research, it says it enhances the relevance in order to increase the student engagement. I could have just left them with the text and a picture and the graphic organizer, but bringing it into a real life context adds a little bit more of a authenticity. I can't say the word, authenticity to the curriculum, and helps them connect what they're learning in the past to what they're doing now. So just to recap here, UDL is a flexible way for us to do our curriculum. And there's no one size fits all to all the students. And so when you are using Universal Design for Learning, you want to show information in a different way. It teaches you to allow students to approach tasks and demonstrate their knowledge in different ways and offer options that will engage the student and keep their interest. So I just wanted to give you the references I used for this if you would like to reach out and take a look for yourself about Universal Design for Learning, and also Judy Willis and her brain-friendly strategies for inclusion in the classroom. Thank you and have a nice day.